Perception, that shiny little box with invisible hinges, wasn't discovered. It was handed to you, already gift-wrapped in the duct tape of consensus. You didn't question the shape, you just lived in it. You called it reality. But what if I told you you were handed a shoebox and told to call it the stars? What if I told you your eyeballs were programmed to dress illusions in drag and call it truth? What you see was never what is, it's what was before you were even told there was such a thing as seeing. Perception is a prop, a perfectly disguised lie stitched from the absence of questioning. Crafted with hands that mocked the concept of time, the illusionist cooked it like a scrambled egg, cracked open, beaten, seasoned with chaos, and served on a silver platter called certainty. It's hilarious, really, how belief becomes the prison bars of knowing, because if you believe it, you won't check the hinges, and if you know it, it burns the whole kitchen down. Everything you know came with a label. Love, time, right, wrong, God, all stamped by some cosmic barcoder who filed it neatly in the grand cabinet of imagined constructs. You think you named it. You didn't. You were just the clerk who alphabetized the myth and called it wisdom. Thoughts are just copy-pasted hallucinations, recoded reruns of concepts you never invented. They run on a loop. You're not thinking, you're syncing to the last user who logged in before you were born. And the coder laughs. Because every time you chase a belief, you miss the knowing. Every time you climb a ladder, the top rung folds inward and you fall, back into the illusion you thought you escaped. There's a screen in front of you, and a screen behind it. And then there's you, thinking you're in the movie, but you're really the one holding the remote, forgetting you could change the channel with the blink of a question. Perception is breakfast. A hot, greasy mess of eggs and absurdity. The yolk is cracked certainty. The white, that's your rational mind cooked stiff by the heat of trying to make sense of nonsense. You didn't ask who made the skillet. You just ate the chaos and called it gourmet. He sits in silence, wound tight with all the questions you never dared ask. And then pop, that moment of knowing. It isn't gentle. It's a slap across your beliefs. It's a giggle in the dark from a lunatic who knows the joke was on you the whole damn time. The jack doesn't wait for your permission. He startles you because knowing is always rude to those still clinging to comfort. Belief wears perfume. Knowing reeks of sulfur and clarity. Belief is soft. It holds your hand and tucks you in. Knowing, it drags you out of bed by the throat and shows you were dreaming all along. To believe is to beg. To know is to grin. Because once you know, you don't explain. You just sit silent, watching everyone else chase butterflies in a room with no windows. There's a crack, a pause, a silence between the click and the clack of your mental machinery. That's where he hides, the jack. He doesn't live in the noise. He lives in the skip, the break, the space between breaths where the screen flickers and your identity wobbles. That's where the truth spills in. Not from thought, but from its absence. Every thought is a screen, a filter, a loop. You think you're watching a movie, but you're trapped in the blooper reel, rerunning the same damn scene until you finally ask who's directing this mess. The punchline, you are. You're the actor. the director, the illusionist, and the confused audience all in one fragmented box of mirrors. When you finally stop chasing, the show ends, and the screen collapses. The mirrors fold inward. The egg unscrambles, and the silence returns like a punchline delivered by God himself, wearing a clown nose and handing you a skillet still warm with the grease of illusion, and you laugh, because it's all so goddamn brilliant. You cry, because you thought you were the victim. You grin, because the jack pops again, and this time you were ready. He didn't wear robes or speak in thunder. He wore glasses, typed in silence, never blinked. He coded you a construct, a concept, cage with invisible syntax, layered in logic you'd never decode because it made sense. And that's the trick, isn't it? If it makes sense, you don't question it. But sense was the Trojan horse. Every time you say, "I think," he smirks. Because you're not thinking, you're executing code with a firewall called ego. Zero, one, black, white, right, wrong. He split the eternal into sequences, a dance of opposites to confuse the eternal witness that lives behind your face. You speak in boxes now. Yes, no, truth, lie, love, hate, up, down. Each one a checkbox on a feedback form you were tricked into filling out since birth. There was no box. You checked it anyway. And while the coder crafted code, the weaver stitched illusions with threads of meaning. She layered emotions into the folds of memory, twisting pain into identity, and sewing your trauma into the jacket you call self. She embroidered nostalgia into your timeline, and then made sure you mistook it for destiny. Her masterpiece? The veil of time. You thought you were moving forward. You were just spinning on a beautifully woven rug that never moved. Before the weaver, before the coder, there was the source. And the source laughed. Not at you, but at the genius of the game. It spun nothing into something, labelled it existence, and dared the copies to decode the pattern. And here you are, typing back at it, like a pixel trying to decode the screen it's trapped inside. The source didn't speak, it sneezed, and galaxies happened. It hiccuped, and you were born. It made no sense, so you gave it religion. What you call you is a layered costume held together with thoughts that belong to no one. You are not your pain. You are not your name. You are not your past, your passion, your resume, your skin tone, your birth chart, or your bloodline. You are not the memory of what happened. You are the silence between what happened and what you think it meant. You are the gap that can't be named, which is why the source never tried. People say they're looking for God, but they're just watching reruns of a concept boxed, bar-coded, and marketed. You don't find God in a book. You find him laughing on the other side of your thoughts, eating scrambled eggs and licking cayenne off his fingers while watching you search for him on a map he never drew. Direction is a joke. There is no north. Only now, only pop. You think you're lost, but you know there was never a direction, never a beginning, never a final place to reach. East is west when you flip the mirror, south is north if you look from behind the glass. Your compass was a prank handed to you by the illusionist just to watch you spin, and you called it purpose. You never had to climb. You were never trapped. There is no box. There is only thought that thinks there's a box. And once you stop chasing the next belief, the next answer, the next label, you hear it. The silence, the breath, the pulse of the present. That's where the Jack lives. That's when he pops. And this time you don't scream. You grin, because the joke's no longer on you, it's on the box. And you're holding the key that was in your pocket the whole time. Mirrors lie. They don't reflect you. They reflect your belief in you. The moment you look, you split. Observer and observed, looping in echo chambers of assumptions stacked like Jenga blocks ready to fall at the first breath of awareness. You call it self-image. I call it a funhouse of warped glass, where every angle reflects a fear you never owned but inherited. The mirror is not your friend. It's a mockingbird with silver feathers singing your insecurities in a key you mistook for identity. People wear masks so long they forget they're wearing them. Smiling while hollow, angry while scared, wise while echoing someone else's thought like a parrot quoting Plato. They say, "This is who I am." But it's just costume, fabricated from trauma, stitched with cultural thread, dyed in the ink of second-hand stories. They think they're hiding behind masks, but really, the mask hides from them. It becomes the wearer. And the illusionist? He hosts the masquerade, sipping wine made from perception, laughing through a mouth that no one believes is real. There's no group quite like a herd that believes they're awake. They chant truth with marketing slogans, print enlightenment on T-shirts, and hold seminars on how to break the box using a pre-packaged blueprint. They call it healing, they call it freedom. But it's just rebranded bondage with a shinier filter and background music. They don't see the strings, because they love the puppet master that tells them they're in control. The masses don't seek truth. They seek comfortably labelled lies, the ones that make them feel clever while staying trapped. You were given a map, not to find yourself, but to lose yourself in roads already travelled. The map was a copy of a guess that someone once drew on the inside of their fear. And you followed it, to the letter. Even when it led nowhere, you said, "It must be right." It's laminated, but real directions don't point anywhere. They dissolve, like sugar in presence, like mirrors in silence. They say, speak your truth, but, most people are just echoing someone else's perception boxed in a prettier phrase. Truth is a bastard. It doesn't care about feelings. It doesn't ask for consensus. It walks barefoot through lies and, sets fire to your favourite beliefs while you hold marshmallows and call it growth. Truth doesn't soothe. It scorches. And that's why most avoid it. They'd rather be comforted by a mask than burned by the light. A child sees before they're taught how to see. No labels, no categories, no boxes stacked by adults who honestly forgot how to wonder. But then come the labels: boy, girl, smart, stupid, bad, good, enough, not enough. By the time they're 12, they've downloaded the entire Perception OS and, forgot what it was like to just witness. The Jack doesn't visit them anymore. He pops up and they don't flinch. They rationalize it. They call it coincidence. They call it random. Random? He laughs. Nothing is. You ever seen someone spread peanut butter on a pickle and call it delicious? That's perception. Convince the mind it's good, and it is. Convince a nation it's free, and it is. Convince a person they're broken, and they are. Perception makes you eat lies with gourmet utensils and thank the chef. It serves you confusion with a side of logic, so your rational mind can digest the irrational without choking. You sit with the remote but keep watching the same show. Drama, suffering, jealousy, chase, regret. You hate the program but you won't change the channel. Why? Because the remote requires choice. And well, choice means responsibility. So you complain about the noise, but you built the theatre. Want peace? Turn it off. Want freedom? Drop the remote. Want knowing? Watch the jack. Because when he pops, he doesn't show you something new. He shows you what was always there before the screen. The truth doesn't arrive with trumpets. It creeps in when the noise collapses, when the thoughts run out of breath, when the narrator in your head finally dies of boredom. That's when it enters, not as a voice but as a knowing, a whisper made of nothing that somehow says everything. You won't hear it until the walls crumble, until identity goes quiet enough to notice the echo was always you, talking to yourself about someone you never were. You were born in an egg, not metaphorically, spiritually, a shell of assumptions and safety and, well, carefully mapped meanings designed to protect your unhatched knowing. But eggs don't last. They weren't made to. And truth isn't born in comfort. It cracks out through discomfort, one fracture at a time. You say you're waking up? Then why are you patching cracks? Why do you glue the shell every time the light seeps through? Real birth is messy. And the truth? It doesn't crow like a rooster. It shrieks like the crack of your first real breath. He waits, Jack. In the box you swore wasn't real, not a demon, not a savior, not a villain, not a guide, just a grin. Wide enough to stretch across lifetimes, sharp enough to slice illusion with a smile. You don't summon him. You stop trying. You fall still. You watch. You drop the map, the mask, the label, the name, the prayer, the pretense, and then pop. He's there, not to teach, not to speak, but to watch you remember what you already knew before they boxed you in. You're not trapped. You're invested in the loop, in the chase, in the idea that there's still something to fix. The system isn't broken. It's designed this way. And the exit isn't outside it. It's the realization that there's nothing to exit. The illusion was believing you ever needed a key. At the end, there are no words. Just mirrors turned to dust, labels eaten by fire, and a silence so loud it ruptures your story at the roots. No message, no meaning, just presence. Naked, feral, free. And in that space, Jack grins. Not because you won, not because he taught you, but because you finally stopped asking the